All right, Kayla, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. All right, make sure we can hear you. You got the feedback, Mr. Walker? Okay, okay. All right, we're working on the feedback here. Give us just a second. We good? All right. You there?
I'm here.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. How are you today?
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome, awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and start the show here. All right, thank you for everybody for tuning in. This is Street Therapy with your man Chris, sitting in the air chair, KUAW Radio. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. We are high atop the WEB Du Bois Learning Center. If you want to drop us a line during any time of this conversation, you can reach us at 816-599-6893, 816-599-6893, also on KUAW.org. Like it, click it, share it, and just subscribe. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest to the show here. First time on the show, but hopefully it won't be the last. We're going to introduce Mrs. Kayla Horn. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank
Doing
you.
good, doing good, good, good. So I reached out to you because you had something that was very interesting. It kind of caught my attention. It's something that's been kind of bouncing around here. We've been hearing this word quite a bit, and so I wanted to reach out to you just so you can maybe explain a little bit about your what it is that you do, and kind of go from there. If you could for me, just go ahead and do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So I am a mother of five
Mm-hmm.
in Joplin, Missouri, so
Mm-hmm.
not nearly as diverse as the Kansas City metro area.
Joplin.
Um, and we have just had a lot of conversations in our community about diversity and inclusion
Right.
and what that looks like in our region. And so, of course, this is a very volatile topic, it seems like right now, which is
Yeah.
sad. But there were just a lot of people that had made comments over and over again about people need to stop complaining and they need to do something.
Mm.
And after hearing that a few times, I really sat down and thought, okay, what is it that I can do?
Yeah.
Because I spent 2 years at historically black college. And so action is definitely a part of what you were taught
Right.
in that.
Right.
Moving back to the Midwest, you get really accustomed to not living that life of action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go back and say, okay, like, what is it that I can do? And one of the things that's really important to me is literacy.
Yeah.
And so my children and myself are avid readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I then reached out to, total randomly, reached out to our local school,
Mm-hmm.
my children's school, and asked a teacher if I were to try a book drive to get books donated that were diverse books for the school, do you think the school would be okay with it?
Yeah.
Within 20 minutes, she said, hey, I sent a message to the principal. And within an hour, the principal had called me and was like, hey, what are you wanting to do?
Right.
And so I walked him through it and I say, I have no clue. I don't know what this looks like. I
Yeah.
want to start a book drive.
Yeah.
I want to get diverse books into the school. We do have a pretty diverse school for the community, in
Right.
the community.
Yeah.
All of the ESL students come to our school. So I have my kids have kids in class that are not fluent in English yet.
Mm.
And so one of the things that I want to bring books with characters in them that
Yeah.
these kids can relate to.
Mm-hmm. That
And
look like
so
them.
he, yes,
Yeah.
because I didn't have that growing up. Most of us didn't have
No.
that
Right.
growing up.
Right.
And so he was on board with it. And
Nice.
so he had already called the school board. He asked the questions that he needed to ask. And so he presented me with two options as far as ways to go about advertising it.
Mm-hmm.
I took the easy route,
Mm-hmm.
but that also meant that I could not advertise the book drive on the school's page,
Mm.
which makes it harder to get the word
Right.
out to the community.
Right.
But for me, it meant that I also didn't have to track the amount of money that was coming in and every single donor that donated books.
Right.
So I created an Amazon wish list full of diverse books. Several teachers from the kids' school helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made the wish list public.
Nice.
And I have a pretty cool network of friends because of my travels and what I've gotten to do. And so I literally, from Houston to California to DC, just literally tagged every single friend I could think of
Right.
and said, "Hey, I need you to buy a book."
Mm.
Um, I had no idea that people would be interested in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. First, another lady in the community reached out and said, "Hey, I want to do it for a school here." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll walk you through how I did it." Well, then I get an email from a family member in Alaska. "Hey, I want to do this for my kids' school here."
Yeah.
Cool. Let me walk you through how I did it.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, my inbox is full of people all over the country
Yeah.
that are like, "Hey, help me do this. How do I do this?"
Yeah.
And so my wish list, I ended up creating two. I did one for my children's school, and then my daughter had a teacher that she was just super close to that moved a community away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I reached out to her. Her school was on board. So we completed my two wish list within a month.
Mm.
Over 200 books donated to two different schools, all
Nice.
diverse books.
Wow. Wow.
And now we've completed six schools have completed their wish list. I've
Yeah.
got several that are a few, like less than 10 away. And then
Hmm.
we've got this really unique opportunity in California. A principal reached out to me and said that they are a small school in rural California.
Mm-hmm.
They have an English based novel curriculum.
Yeah.
And after seeing our Get Diverse Lit page, she realized that the books that they're using for the English curriculum don't include diverse characters, and she wanted to change that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar, but small schools funding is not the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to make that change, she needs 100 books. And
Wow.
so we've been able to get two books, including a Maya Angelou book,
Mm.
into their curriculum
Yeah.
for this school year. And so we've kept their wish list up, and hopefully we'll get new books added as well. But 200 books they've already received, plus a few more
That's
to
nice.
change their whole curriculum.
That's nice. That's very important because, like you said earlier, it is important to when you look and you're reading and you're looking at something that looks, it's almost like looking back at you, like
Yes.
reflecting the mirror image of you, so it's often, you can relate to it a little more, and also it builds your self-esteem when you look and see positive stories of people that look like you, and reading and learning and things like that as well. So um, starting that curriculum, what have you noticed from first from the students? We'll get to the teachers and administrators, but what have you noticed from the students? What are they gaining from that?
So there is on the Instagram page, I did post a story, and obviously we can't post pictures of the students.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my close friends at our school is a teacher,
Yeah.
and she had sent me a message and just said, "I knew this was something special when you reached out to me with this idea, but she has a little brown girl in class with big old puffs."
Yeah.
And she would take some books so they're rotating their books in the classroom.
Sure.
So the 190 or whatever books they got donated, they keep on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
And when the teachers are done with them, they bring them. So this little girl, this teacher puts the books out that she has for the week,
Yeah.
and they can kind of pick what books they're going to read that day. Well, this little girl walks over to, I don't remember, it's in the Instagram. I want to say it was Hair Love, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this little brown girl in this book with these big old puffs.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Miss Compton, can I read this book? Because this girl looks just like me.
Oh,
And she said, "Kayla, I instantly got chills." And she
yeah.
said, "I've never thought about it. I've never considered it. But I've never had a kid in class that was excited just because the character in the book looked like
Look
them."
like them.
And so she said, "Absolutely." And so that afternoon, they sat down, they read the book, and she said the whole time she was reading it, the little girl just kept saying, "Hey, I know, I use a comb like that," or whatever it was,
Yeah.
but just the smallest things, because we don't see ourselves in literature.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the point where we now see ourselves in movies,
Yeah.
and more so in the media.
Yeah.
But in literature, it's not happening as often.
Yeah.
And it's out there now. So we're just not providing it.
And that's the beauty of it, that you took that passion and you turned it into some progress, it reminds me of the situation when Flint, Michigan, they had the water crisis up there, and 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 I woke up one day and I didn't have any money, so I woke up one day. I said I just want to do something. So I literally walked around all day and asked people to donate $5. And then I had some people that donated five and things like that. And I ended up sending, I think it was like either 17 or 21 cases of water up there.
That's
And
awesome.
I didn't have any, and I actually had guys still giving me money the next day, and I said, no, I don't want your money, man. It's over. I just did it for one day. And brother said, man, here, I want to buy you lunch just for doing what you did yesterday. He was still giving me money for lunch that next day. So it created the need and created the passion. And I think a lot of times when people see that you have the passion to do it and they see you going forth, that makes a believer out of them.
That's it.
And I think it was, and I think that's beautiful, the fact that the little girl, I actually seen, did they make that into a cartoon, the
The
hair?
hair love one, I think so. With the
Yeah.
dad that does, yes.
Yeah, I think I saw it on CBS Sunday Morning, man. I was like, "What?" And the dad was combing the little
Yes.
girl's hair, So that was beautiful. But it is good to see that, even when you see the black baby dolls, starting to see a lot more black and brown and different colored
Yes.
baby dolls and stuff. I know there was a test that was shown some years ago, that had they had the black and the white Barbie down. They said which one is the cutest or cuter, and overwhelmingly they most of the kids picked up the white Barbie doll
Right.
because that's what you see. You see the Barbie with the pretty white blonde hair and things like that. So you instantly equate that with beauty. But then when you see a person of color, if you see a person of color, it's not really glamorized, and I think you know that's something that's changing. And big ups to you for
Right.
even thinking about doing something like that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So what have the response from the teachers being or the administrators been with as much as you could probably say? I don't know.
I was overwhelmed at the support from
Yeah,
the schools.
yeah.
Um, we, so we live in Joplin.
Hmm.
We built in the tornado zone years after the tornado came through
Yeah,
because we wanted the specific school that that our kids are in. Um, and they've just been exactly what we knew them to be. And so even though we've transitioned and we have new principals compared to when we built the house,
right.
they they care. I think they care about all of their students. I
Yeah,
just think being in a community that's not so diverse, they
yeah,
don't notice these things. It's
yeah,
not at the top of their brain. But as soon as it was brought to their attention, they were like, let's do it.
yeah.
I've I have yet to have another project that I know of
Mm.
that has had it was literally within an hour. It was like this random idea. I have no idea how I'm going to do it
Right.
within an hour.
Yeah.
And the principal was like, well, I've already called above my head and this is what we can do. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And so within 24 hours, we had that list up and going.
Yeah.
And then when I reached out to the school, so I mean, you know how Missouri is. I
Yeah.
don't know if people are familiar. So
Yeah.
Webb City is literally just across the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but from where I am to the other school we reached out to, it's about a 30-minute drive.
Sure.
And I don't really know the community as well as I know Joplin's.
Yeah.
And so when I reached out to my daughter's former teacher and was like, hey, I want to do this, and I reached out to a few people that had some push and pull in the community, they were like, we're doing it.
Nice.
Now mind you, we don't have diversity in education. So I'm
Mm.
reaching out to white people for all
Yeah.
intents and purposes.
Yeah.
It's not like I have that one brown person at the school that I can go to.
Yeah.
I'm asking people that may not have an interest or see a need,
Uh,
and every single time they've been like, let's do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's good. And I think, like I said, I think when people see you have that passion and the way that you approach them, they say, "Man, listen, I see. I may not understand what you're doing, but
Right.
I do see a need for that. Because when you look in the classroom, you look around the classroom, everybody's not of one particular hue. There are different hues that are within the makeup of the classroom. So when you present literature to that includes everybody, then that makes it more palatable. That makes it
Yes.
more people willing to learn, and that's wonderful about a little girl with the poofy hair. Says she looks like me.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I know that comb.
See, that's been on my head. It hurt.
Right. That's
Yeah,
it.
but and so as far as that, and you said your children are avid readers, so that's something that obviously not only you teach, but you also implement in your own household.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
So,
go ahead.
no. So I used to work for a program called Upward Bound,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's been interesting. I've I was a part of a trio program.
Yeah.
We got to spend more time with the inner city area. So I am in rural Missouri working
Right.
with kids that have a graduating class of 10. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so part of our job was to take them on cultural trips. And so I got to travel the country with these kids. We took them to Howard University,
Yeah.
and that was probably my toughest experience with them, was taking them to an HBCU. They were not fans, and we had to have
Mm,
some very real talks
yeah.
after that trip.
Yeah.
But it gave them the opportunity to see what it's like to not be the majority, or to and to get out there. But we
Yeah.
also, as we take them to these museums,
Yeah.
I would stop in the museum and go through the bookstore, and just whatever I could grab that was
Yes.
something that would expose my kids to something else. And
Absolutely.
so over the last 10 years, it's normal for my kids to bring me a book. There's one called The Name Jar
Hmm.
that is of Asian culture, and they're immigrants and they move in, and this little girl wants to change her name because nobody can pronounce it.
Wow.
And so her classmates help her pick a name. So like that became normal for us, but you take it for granted because
Yeah.
it's your normal and it's not everybody else's.
It's not everybody else's. Yeah. It's funny because you go through the HBCU and they're like, "What song are they dancing to? Why are they dancing like that? Did they just do a flip in a car? What was that?"
Yes.
Yeah, that's a different experience. Yeah, I had a buddy that was in the drill team actually years ago, and we used to go to a lot of homecoming at Lincoln University. So
Yeah.
very very interesting, but also I mean that is cultural, and culture's not uh, it's not bad. It's just what you're adapted to. It's what you're used to. It's your makeup as a human being. It's what makes you as that person. And I
Right.
think I think right now, we're at a time where folks are, you know, creating these border walls, with just all that's going on in our culture, and there's all these walls being built up, whether it be with folks of not liking each other, but also with COVID, keeping people
Right.
inside, and that's been a real thing for us because our daughter, she has to do the virtual thing for a while, until they open her school back up, and the crazy part about that is she's doing computer all day at home, so we're trying to cut a lot of that screen time out, but if
Right.
all of her curriculum is on computer, so at the end of the day she wanted to get on YouTube. I'm like, no, 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 you've been on, your eyes need to take a rest, you
Yes.
know and I think they say a lot of times there's been studies showing that a lot of times that's really not that good for you,
Right.
so just opening up a good book and getting into it, and I'm talking to myself too, but there's a lot that us as parents can learn from this, as well, and how the parents response. I mean, I know I've said something about the children and
Yeah.
the administrators, how the parents respond, what response to those.
So that one has, I think, been the most difficult for me.
Yeah.
Um, so with my lists for the two schools, it really ended up being most of my friends that
Mm-hmm.
purchased the books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the community didn't really get behind what we were doing
Right.
as much as I had hoped for.
Sure.
And I don't know again if it's because I wasn't really able to market it,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, in
Right.
a more efficient way,
Get
or if
it
they
out there
really just
sooner.
right,
Yeah.
or if they weren't supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So the one experience I think that really messed me up was I was having a conversation with um, a friend, like an individual that I really cared about.
Sure.
And it was a difficult conversation just about some transitions that we were making in our life.
Right.
But she had mentioned, well, I'm stuck. Like, we can't pick sides. Just
Hmm.
talking about, the racial disparities.
Right.
Um, and I said, well, we all kind of pick sides.
Yeah.
You can try to stay complacent, but you're lukewarm or you're hot. Like,
Sure.
you pick a side.
Yeah. Just
And
by
she said,
just by
no,
natural
not
happenstance, you're gonna pick a side.
right.
Yeah.
And so she said, no, she said, I thought like your get diverse lit thing, I thought that that was a good thing. And I shared your page, and she is a pastor's wife.
Sure.
And she said she shared the page, and someone sent a message to her husband, highly upset, questioning my faith and
Mm.
my belief in Christ, and
Right.
why would I be putting these types of books into the schools? Um, now
Mm.
I have to explain first
Uh-huh.
that because I chose to work with the teachers, they really expanded my expectations,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking of cultures,
Yeah.
and they are thinking of the deaf kid that they have, or the child in a wheelchair, or the child with cerebral palsy. So if
Sure.
you look at our list,
Hmm.
there are books on all of those things as well. It's not just culture, it's
Yeah.
life experiences that we know nothing about.
Sure.
And so one of my favorite books in all of that, and I didn't see anything wrong with it and was
Yeah.
very hype about it. It's called The Proudest Blue.
Hmm.
And oh, I can't think of her name. There's an Olympic medalist.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was fencing,
Mm-hmm.
that is Muslim,
Mm.
that wrote a book about her and her sister
Mm.
and the hijab. And
Mm-hmm.
I am in my 30s and knew nothing
Yeah.
about the culture or why they wear a hijab. I'd never asked the question.
Right.
And it's just this beautiful book of her explaining, I became of age, I started to wear a hijab full time, I
Mm.
started wearing it to school, and this little sister is watching kids pick on her, and kids ask questions, and kids call it a tablecloth. And the mother is just sharing this wisdom of, like, this is a part of who you are. Don't be afraid or don't back down from who you are. It's a beautiful message.
Yeah.
And just sharing of the culture.
Right.
And this individual that sent this message was just, she's trying, like, you basically would have thought by this message that I was pushing a Muslim agenda.
Right. Right.
Um,
And
because there's,
totally not what it was about.
correct. I
Right.
had another person that was very upset. Another parent came to me, well, what do you mean by diverse? I said, well, I feel like that's a trick question.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I mean, well, what about, I almost died. She said something about, well, what about those people? And I'm racking my brain thinking at our school, because we don't have a lot of like diversity among the teachers. Like,
Right.
what are those people? And then I realized, and I said, books on homosexuality.
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, what about that? And I said, well, here's the deal.
Uh-huh.
I said, I'm not telling people they have to buy books.
Uh-huh.
I'm listing the books so they can purchase them, number one.
Right.
Number two, whether or not we agree with that, you do realize there are kids in our school that are either struggling with that issue or that are a part of a family
Yeah.
that has two moms or two dads.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what if they want that in our school?
Yeah. I think you just froze up a little bit there.
Me to have these conversations with parents.
Yeah.
Um, but to also, be okay with the fact that yes, there are some cultures that I might not agree with their doctrine, or I might, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
but they deserve to see themselves
Yeah.
in literature.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest part about it is just being afraid. I mean, it's okay. It's natural to be afraid. It really is. It's natural to be afraid, and it's okay to just not understand. But you have to understand, because when your culture is shifting, you're not going to agree with everything.
Right.
Nobody will, but to get an understanding on what's going on, and because you can look at somebody a certain way. I guess the old phrase says, don't judge a book by its cover. and
Right.
we're talking about literacy. but but don't judge a book by its cover. You know, everything is not really what it seems. If you get an understanding onto what it is into somebody else's life, doesn't mean that you have to live their life. It just means that you understand their life. And, you know,
Right.
and you don't have to be afraid of that. You know, and I think that's the biggest part about it. You know, just getting the understanding. And I listen. I applaud you for that. That's awesome.
You know. So and it's been fun. So I've had the kid. This book's come in. I'm like, ooh, this looks good. You should try it. And so
Absolutely.
I've had my kids kind of read. Hey, so there's like a book called Omar,
Mm,
um, and there's Yasmin and Omar, and so they are chapter books, which I love because if the teachers put them in their classroom and the kids enjoy them, they can add to,
yeah.
they can buy more parts of that.
Yeah.
But it's literally just your regular old like kids, third, fourth, fifth grade little chapter book.
Yeah.
But instead of a dog, a cat, or, a Caucasian kid,
Yeah.
Omar, I think, is Persian, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Um, and Yasmin is like Filipino, or you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's nothing magical. It's not,
It's
but it's literally, you're going to see words
yeah.
from their culture. What they're eating for dinner is not spaghetti and meatballs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you realize that, like, and I think that's the thing for me. You finally get to see like it's just their culture. Like
Yeah.
they're not this big scary
Yeah.
language or whatever. Like they live a life just like we do.
It's life. It's life. You know, when you walk around and you just out in just everyday life, you see, you know, tall people, short people, big people, little people. You know, you see, you know, couples. You see white people with black people. You know, mixed relationships. You see, you know, whites with Asians and things like that. That is life, and that's our reality. You know, and to kind of to shun people away from that, and you know, we can guard our kids as much as we want to. We can protect them as much as we want to. We can cover their eyes when they're at home, not turn the TV on as much or not internet as much as we want to. But they will see that. You know,
Right.
they'll see what life has to offer. But if we do not prepare them as to what life has to offer, they will either be afraid of it or they won't embrace it, or then they'll become one of the statistics of just being closed minded, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a tough spot to be in because, you know, when you're in that type of life, I've heard this phrase before. They said life is made up of your three experiences: experience, exposure, and your encounters and in your environment. That's what makes up a person. You know, what their experience, what their encounters, and what their environment is. And a lot of times, is you know, one of those three things is going to form who they are as a person. You know,
Right.
and we should expose them to certain things. Not we don't have to indulge in certain things, but they should know about certain things. You know, whether we think it's bad or right or wrong, but they should know about it. You know, and I think that's what
Exactly.
makes it. That's what gives them the clear mind to understand it and to rightfully process it. And we can walk them through that and rightfully process it, and to the point where they understand a lot more than we shelter them,
Yes.
because it's here.
It's
It's here.
here.
It's here. So, so if anyone wants to connect with you or contact you or whatnot, how can they do that, Mrs. Horn?
So we are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Hmm.
All three social media platforms are Get Diverse Lit.
Yeah,
So they can follow the pages.
yeah.
Try to post content. I am not as good with Twitter, but I am working on it.
Help us too,
but
please. No.
yes,
Yeah,
but Instagram really took off in a way that I I literally on my birthday went to sleep
yeah,
like 100 followers and
yeah.
woke up the next morning and was breaking 1,000.
Mm,
And
yeah,
so it was really neat.
yeah.
So we use the Instagram platform a lot.
Nice,
You can email us at getdiverselit@gmail.com if you are interested in starting a project.
nice.
It is difficult because I would have teachers email me all the time, like, I want books for my classroom, and I love it and I'm here for it.
Yeah,
And if they've never set up a wish list, I'd be happy to help you with that. But our
nice.
focus is truly to put books in entire schools because I don't want my kids to go into Miss Susie's class
Yeah.
and have diverse books, but move up a grade and not have, not have that same
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
So we do try to work with entire schools.
Beautiful.
And so if you're a teacher that wants books in the classroom that's willing to create a list for your whole school, would be happy to work with you. You can email us. And then we just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
We use Amazon for the efficiency of it,
Mm-hmm.
but we've had fun experimenting here locally with working with businesses to create drop-off locations.
Yeah.
Because don't sleep on Target
Uh-huh.
alone.
Yeah.
Target's diverse book section is one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, it's big.
Um, and your local bookstores as well have options as well. So
Yeah.
um, local drop-off locations, we've got options to help people get this up and going if it's something they want to do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Listen, thank you so much, Kayla. Horn, get diversely lit, and lit stands for literature.
That's it.
Beautiful. That's awesome. I think that's my little ones are mixed or whatnot. So when we see certain things, they're like, well, what is, I said, well, So we have that conversation with them as well. But it is just life experiences. So thank you so much for that. And you had about 190 books and things like that. So we'll have you back on, and you'll probably be in half the country.
That's the plan. We're gonna do it.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can help with that. But thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, take care. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh. Bye. All right, listen, you've tuned in to Street Therapy. This is your man Chris sitting in the air chair. If you want to drop us a line, hit us at 816-599-6893. We're going to go to a break here and reset the show. Back on the other side, we got another gentleman still talking about literacy and education. So turn a little different angle here, but definitely going to come back here. And so be right back. Thanks.
Hey everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the Zodiac days. Be sure and check us out. We're going to be here every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's old school with Scatter. Scatter's back. Check me out on the internet, KUAW.org. For all you Paseo Central Manulite people, want you to remember that in the 60s and the 70s, we had some good music. If you want to hear some of the Temptations, some of Smokey Robinson, some of the Tim Free, things that you don't get every day, DJ Scatter remembers he's going to have it for you.
Bank of Blue Valley is a proud sponsor of KUAW Radio. At Bank of Blue Valley, we believe that an understanding of financial value sets individuals up for a strong future. Whether you want to talk about checking and savings accounts, review lending alternatives, or discuss starting your own business, we have the right people to listen and advise. Visit us at bankbv.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to 98.5. Oh, yeah. This is KUAW, Kansas City, Missouri.
That's okay. I knew it was still. All right. Yep. Back. Good. All right. We're back. All right, listen here. We're back on the other side of the break. Still sitting here in the air chair with my man, Mr. George Walker, on the other side with the ones and twos. Listen here. We our next guest is also a first time caller into the studio here, but definitely is doing some beautiful things. I really want to highlight what he's doing since we're talking about education and young folks and things like that. I want to add Mr. Anthony into the program today. Anthony, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me just fine?
Oh, man, just fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. How are you?
Man, doing well. Well, Anthony, I reached out to you, brother, because there are some things that you were doing that were definitely noteworthy and some things that got my attention, man. So if you could introduce yourself to the listeners, man, and definitely tell them what it is that you do.
Okay, so again, my name is Anthony Atkinson, born and raised Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I have a long-standing career helping people, I guess you would say, community service, different social justice experiences, and also I have about 11 years worth of various law enforcement experience. What I was currently working on was a program called Fish. And what Fish is a play off of fish, of course, but Fish, food, energy, education, shelter, and health,
Yeah.
those are the five major keystones to any community. And growing up in Kansas City, not downing my city at all, but we have a struggle in our city with communal self-sufficiency. Um, we got the chance to see that heavy during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Many people were rushing to scavenge for items and food, led to a lot of commotions. Many people losing jobs, and incomes. Um, One thing that would have better benefited, the entirety of our community
Mm-hmm.
is if we already had things in place,
Mm-hmm.
just in which we don't have to depend on the others. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know how else to kindly say that.
No, no, I get you.
But without,
No, yeah, no,
yeah,
I said I get you. That makes sense. You're saying if we would have had some key elements in place, just for instance, toilet paper. Everybody was running out of toilet paper,
yeah,
in most of the stores. So now if we would have had if that would have been a situation where everybody would have ran out of food, it would have been in bad shape.
yes.
Yeah.
And like for instance, you have to think too how many of the shipping and receiving that they stopped. So if we didn't continue with those types of things, if it ever did become a problem where shipping and receiving and a food shortage,
Hmm.
we know as a community that is a problem.
Yeah.
Um, what my program would offer was the community focusing on their own food, energy, education, shelter, and health to where we don't have to become byproduct to just agenda because even in today's climate,
Hmm.
it's very political.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're throwing the well-being of the communities out to
Hmm.
make it political. Um, a lot of communities, not just ours,
Right.
a lot of communities have suffered greatly and still are.
Yeah.
A lot of assistance not being able to be met because of the huge number of people needing it,
Absolutely.
you know? So I think to alleviate not only our government, our churches, and ourselves, if we focus on something like that,
Hmm.
we'll be able to really endure all situations.
Which is important, because even when Hurricane Katrina hit down in Louisiana, I think
Yeah,
there were some people from the Red Cross. They were saying that one of the things that really got them, that really bothered them was the fact that they were running out of food and they were running out of supplies, and so that's why a lot of places just shipped a lot of that stuff down there because those are some of the things that they needed. Granted, there it was a flood, so it probably would have destroyed most of their crops or whatever they had. But yet, and still, there were things that they could have put in place inside their homes to sustain us, and I think it's really when you look at the bigger picture, even in Flint, Michigan, I talked about a little bit earlier. The bad
yeah,
water that's been up there, but when you look at the bigger picture, you look at some of the things that we eat and that we consume that's really not the best for us, and so when you grow your own stuff, you kind of what it is that you have and that you're working with. I've been looking at this gentleman named the Ministry of Wellness. Man, he's been breaking some stuff down where I was like, man, I know I need to do better, but I said, man, you know,
yeah.
this is interesting, man.
It's extremely important because us eating right makes sure that COVID would have never been a problem. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? If everyone's immune system
yeah,
was kept.
sure.
So a lot of times you see like people prepping to for different survival and different emergency preparedness.
Right.
Me and my family, we've decided not to focus necessarily on the bulk of waters, the bulk of food because oftentimes we don't have places to store those things.
Right.
It's going to become winter. We're going to deal with rodents.
Mm.
So one thing that you can do, grab those herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Grab those herbs, making an everyday thing, stay consistent, and boost your immune system.
Yeah.
If you do that, you'll have more than enough nutrients to carry yourself through a hard time. And also, having something as little as seeds is not too bulky.
Right.
Get yourself some seeds. Start growing your own food.
Yeah.
Because if you have, let's say you just grow lettuce, or your neighbor grows potatoes, and your other neighbor, grows radishes. You guys just developed a stew.
Yeah.
In which everybody can eat.
Yeah. Or made a good salad.
Yeah, and we think to ourselves, well, duh, but this has been said time and time again.
Yeah.
And we have not been able to utilize that into our city aspect. And that's what I'm trying to do with Fish.
Yeah.
Being able to get some of these abandoned houses up to where they're actually housing people.
Yeah.
Being able to get these lots to where they're actually in use and not just sitting there, cracking pretty much.
That was my next question. But no, you're right. That was my next question, man. With Fish, I know the F stood for food, environment. Was it sustainability? What was the other the H? Housing.
Yes, food, energy, education, shelter, and health.
Yeah. That shelter part was the one I wanted to really hone in on because you talked about the abandoned houses. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, being able to put our poor in these homes.
Yeah.
If we have homeowners who are not taking care of the property, our city, if we start utilizing programs correctly, could buy those homes, could renovate those homes, and now we have a home where we can place a homeless family. We can place a working homeless male or man or woman.
Yeah.
We can start putting our elderlies in these homes.
Yeah.
Develop more LLCs, like I was talking to you earlier. Develop more LLCs for our nurses to where you guys don't have to work in those hospitals. Because a lot of the times those nurses feel like, I could have told you that. You can go to our elderly and you can help our elderly, and that money that's going to those hospitals can come to you. We can start building communal power.
Yeah.
Communal power, because our dependence in this country has made us to the point where we have to choose a side.
Right.
We got to either go here or go here because we don't know where our fate lies.
Sure.
That's not a good look for anyone.
That's a tough spot to be in. You're in between. It's almost like you're in between a rock and a hard place. You say, well, I want to help my community and I want to do what's good for my community. I want to do what my heart and my passion says to do the best for my community, but I need a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you. Yeah. It's kind of like, you are in between the rock and a hard place. I want to do what's best for my community. I see my community suffering. I see them doing this and this and this. But man, I want to help them. But how can I get paid from doing that? I think that's the biggest deal. And if we did have the self-sustaining communities, which is really probably not even that difficult. You just got to make those strides and do it. And then we got to raise the trust factor in our communities, man. A lot of times our trust factor in our communities has been just tainted because oftentimes it's difficult to trust people that look like us. But then again, if you look at it, we trust people that don't look like us, that don't look like us, and they do us bad too.
And something that I made to make that, I eased that pain, because that was a question that I've been working on this since I was about 16. I'm 31 now. That's when the idea came to me.
Yeah.
And one question that has came up through all the years: how do you get people to trust you? It's not me. It's like you said, us trusting each other.
Yeah.
But I created a system in which that trust factor could be useful,
yeah.
And come very easy. And what that is The program itself is to take 50,000 men. I wanted men.
Yeah.
Ladies, I'm sorry, but I wanted men who leave their homes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that type of mindset there, it develops an energy.
Mm.
So about 50K men, that's a small community, the different communities, the different counties. And we take our men put aside just a little crumb, a crumb. We don't want your money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just want we want the men. The men is the resource.
Right.
You put aside a little crumb, and in that crumb, we place it into our own pot. Mm-hmm. It's not a pot where this person has control over. Mm-hmm. This person, no one can touch this pot. Mm-hmm. This pot is only utilized in communal expense, and the community can view that expense 24/7. One thing about the city budget is we don't get to see that 24/7. Yeah. We don't get to see where our tax dollars go.
Right.
We don't get to see where our money's going. So they say, well, your money's going to such and such program, but we look at our schools atrocious. Yeah. We look at our streets atrocious. We look at our crime and our crime prevention groups atrocious. And that's just dealing with Kansas City.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that if the people could see where their money was going, can see every cent, can literally be there for every transaction like we do at our community, at our city hall meetings.
Right.
People can come and they can talk to the politicians and they can get to figure things out. Well, why don't you come down and buy land with us?
Yeah.
Why don't you come down and let's pick out tutors for our children?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't we come down and we start doing this communally?
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. And I guess if you look at it, it's not me, it's we. You know, we should say it's not really me, it's we. You know, and that's what it has to be. You know, getting over the fear factor or the fear effect of not doing anything. But like you said, man, just putting all your resources in one pot. You know, you get 50 men or 100 men or whatever case, and they put little money in every so often, and that money begins to build. Okay, and at some point, then okay, boom, that money builds. You find somebody that's in a dilapidated house, you go buy that house and you go restore that house. But then you take that same money and then you do the same thing over and over again. You find somebody that has the resources and the backing to knows how to do construction and things like that. Then you've just created a property that you can sell or rent, but you've also created another source of income that can also go to another back into the pot to continue to do the things. Before you know it, you have a neighborhood, but it starts off with that one person.
Yeah, and you see, like, if the matter of the game is its speed, because most people, oftentimes, we're so used to waiting.
Yeah.
You know, like, we always constantly told, well, this is going to happen in the future.
Right.
This is going to happen in the future. When we could do something that can happen at this second.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I made the program. The program's not to just take place over time. It's to take place in that moment. That's why the people, and once the community understand that you are the resource.
Yeah.
It's not what you have. It's not what you own. It's not what you know how to do. All that stuff will come.
Yeah.
But the people themselves are the resource. We can change our position as a community in the blink of an eye.
Well, you know, and that's what I say about, volunteering, because, I do some volunteering. You know, when you oftentimes when you volunteer, you don't get a lot of people that volunteer, but the people that you do get to volunteer, they enjoy what they do. They put their heart and their soul into volunteering. And then when you get a person that's maybe a little reluctant to do some volunteer work, I really don't have the time. I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to get involved. But if you find out when they do it, after a while, they forget that they're doing it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because they're so involved in it. It's just like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And and you feel better about yourself, man. Oftentimes when you're giving something, man, that you're giving it for free or you're giving away your time, whatever the case, you feel better. You feel better about yourself. You really do. And that's the beauty of volunteering your time and all that. Not only that, our community needs to see that, man. We need to see,
Yeah.
we need to see men getting out there and putting the work in and doing the work, and I need to do more myself. But we need to see men doing things like that because we see, we see, drive-bys. We see we see the cars getting shot up. We see the protests. We see the reactionary things after something happens when we get out in the street and things like that. But what do we see before any of that stuff happens?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. We see the people out there crying because somebody died, and we see the funeral cars and things like that. But what do we see before? Before all that stuff happened. Whatever. If there would have been situations in certain places where people had different time, they wouldn't have a lot of idle time, man. And that's really what I'm saying is when we have that idle time to do just a lot of nothing, man, it leads to just bad situations, brother.
Yeah. And one thing that these kids don't have is something productive to do.
Yeah.
We're so used to giving them activities in the sense of what we would think is fun.
Right.
But the world is not running off of fun.
No.
Like all that they'll know when they get older is how to have fun.
Yes.
And then we see the issues that we have today when we could be teaching these kids credible trade skills.
when you teach them how to have fun their whole life, they'll grow up thinking they can still play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like one thing that I do take with, excuse me, I'm sorry for if I interrupted you, but
No, you good.
one thing that I do take with my family is that we give them different trades to learn.
Yeah.
And it's easy for you to kind of look at your child and be able to say, well, I think you'll be pretty good at this, and kind of leaning them towards that.
Right.
And then leaning them towards something else.
Right.
And then they tell you what they want to do.
Right.
And then we focus on that, Right now in the schools, to be quite honest, they're not learning anything because what they're learning about is the COVID.
Mm.
So they're not actually receiving an education in a lot of our public schools. So what can we do at home?
Yeah.
Because testing is still going to happen.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, we have to. And I guess we really can't go on autopilot. Like my daughter, she's in 4th grade, and we've been doing a whole virtual thing with her. And man, it's been interesting, man. It's it's been interesting. You have to go back and kind of retrain your brain to kind of do what you need to do to get things figured out. But yeah, there is, and that's something that we talked about in my show a few weeks ago, talking about city government. Oftentimes is when it's in middle school, you're talking about the different branches of government, but it seems like when you get up to high school, when you're closer to the time that you can vote, it's taught less and less. So it's taught more. It's taught more when you can't vote, and it's taught less when you can vote. It doesn't make sense. It's just almost like it's programmed that way. But and it's also, like you said, we're so bent on the system teaching us. We're so bent on the system providing for us. We're so bent on the system advocating for us. Then we've almost forgot who are we.
Yeah.
Who are we without people giving us something, or people giving us. I had a conversation with a lady some time ago. She was like, "Well, Chris, I think there should be another Dr. Martin Luther King that should rise up, or another Malcolm X that should rise up, or another Medgar Evers should rise up." I say, well, if that's the case, then what happens with them when they die? If another one singular person rises up to take the black community, the brown community, whatever the case, and help us go toward this singular thought of our community, what happened? We saw what happened with Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and some of the others. I told her, I said, I think it shouldn't just be that one particular person, but it takes everybody to do that. Everybody has to be the leader. Everybody has to take a part. Everybody has to do something, not just that one particular person, because that one particular person carries the burden of everybody else. No, everybody needs to carry the burden, and do for self and do for your community. This not that one particular person.
Yeah, and I say that that's a prime key of the program, Fish, because it'll die with me if it was just me.
Absolutely, yeah.
It would just die with me, and I am a man of scripture. I tend to keep with my Lord. And
same here.
one thing that I learned is never do it by yourself because you're not alone.
Yeah.
And if you do it by yourself, you put yourself in the position without an army.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have everyone in the same understanding and we make this like it's the new norm.
Yeah.
Loving each other, the new norm.
Yeah. 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 What does it say?
And that starts with the self, because a lot of us, knowing how we grew up, knowing our misfortunes and downfalls,
right,
knowing we have such and such bill to worry about, we have this mind of clutter, and a mind of clutter develops a ill temperament, and so we wonder why somebody's so quick to snap, or somebody's so quick to say no, or we've been abused.
Yeah. Yeah, it's trauma.
And when if we all took the time to say, I have trauma.
Yeah.
My neighbor has trauma.
Yeah.
How can I, with my talent, help my neighbor?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, man, before we get cut off on the show here, how can people reach out to you, man, and connect with you real quick here? We got about a minute left.
Okay, realistically, because the website is still in production.
Okay.
But if you guys want to reach me, you can add me on Facebook. It's either Anthony J. Atkinson or Sane Cipher, SAYNCIPHER on Facebook. Fisher of Men, Instagram. And not hard to reach.
Yeah.
And very, very approachable. So if you guys see me out, don't hesitate to say hi.
Right on. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man. This has been Chris. Say y'all peace, man. God bless. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.
You too, brother.
Thank you. Yeah.